Hi everyone, Sean back from the Sci-Fi Model Guy, and welcome to Chapter 3 of the NX-1017 or the Constellation B or Enterprise Redo or whatever we're going to call this thing. We're basically modifying this Enterprise C kit. So there's a lot to unpack here in this one, guys. We're going over the baking soda and CA glue technique that I did, which didn't go as I had originally thought it did. So you'll see in the video at one point in here, just to let you know, I thought everything was smooth and nice, and it turns out it wasn't. I actually had to do 2 rounds of this CA and baking soda technique. And the reason for that, I'm just going to tell you all right now, is because when I applied it, I used a really low grit sandpaper to chop it all down because it was real bumpy and everything, and I was in a hurry. And so I got like 120 grit sandpaper, 180 grit sandpaper to get it off. And what that was started to do was it was chipping off parts that I didn't want to chip off. So if you're doing this along with me, folks, go ahead and save yourself the trouble and just use a finer grit sandpaper. I would say start at 220 to start knocking this stuff down. Now, it's going to take a long time because this CA glue and the baking soda mixture makes a substance that's harder than the styrene. So if you're going to do this, have a mask, have it on when you're sanding, open your doors, get the ventilation going, and have patience. I did not, and I've learned a lesson here, so I'm trying to pass it down on to you guys. It would have been better if I had just sanded it. So again, I did go a couple rounds of the baking soda and the CA glue, and then even after that, everyone, I found that the panel lines were still showing through. I mean, I would put putty on it, I'd smooth it down, sand it, it would feel perfect, like to my fingers, and then we put primer on it. Like we've said before, primer will reveal imperfections and stuff. So did several rounds of putty, several rounds of primer, and I finally got it down. I'm just going to show this here. It's a nice, smooth surface. There are just a couple tiny spots there. I'm going to let them go. I'm going to sand this down one more time, very light, high grit sandpaper, give it another coat of the filler primer, and then we'll be ready to go. The bottom of the saucer section, everyone, is nice and smooth. It works out. A lot of work has gone into this, but it's turned out to be really neat. And I really am anxious to see what this is going to look like. I'm still thinking of the paint schemes and the colors. So if you guys have any suggestions, please let me know. Another quick update here, and I'm just showing you where we are right now. Here is the secondary hull. It all smoothed out. I ended up doing some putty rounds with that, sanding putty, and getting that all down with then filler primer. And this is looking really sharp. It's super smooth. And then lastly, to show you where we are, the nacelles are done. They're smooth and really nice. They came out super nice. I'm just showing you here so you can compare to what these look like, what you're going to see in the video. And then I went ahead and hit them with the black primer to start the light blocking process, which we're going to be doing later. So anyway, long-winded intro, but I wanted to show you guys this, where we are with the model now, and give you that, tell you about that lesson I learned of using a low grit or a finer sandpaper to knock down that CA glue. Now, it's going to take time, so if you're going to do this thing with me, just be prepared to have a lot of time and take several days doing this. It's going to be a lot of elbow grease and a lot of work, and a lot of patience, but I'm super happy with it, and I'm really looking forward to doing more. Now, the next video, everybody, is going to be obviously Chapter 4, and I'm going to start building the struts for the nacelle. So I got some ideas about that. All that aside, the last thing I'm going to talk about here is I would hopefully, for you all who are seeing this now, to join me this Sunday, March 2nd at 9 o'clock. Is it 9 o'clock? Yeah, 9 o'clock Central Time. And I'm going to be having R.M. Briggs on the show, and we're going to be talking about her creative process as a writer. R.M. Briggs is a science fiction writer, everybody. She's like old school, traditional science fiction short stories. And I thought it would be really cool to bring a writer on the show to talk about their creative processes as far as science fiction. Now, we've already talked to several people with physical creations. We saw with Mark D with the last time, talking about 3D printing, and we've talked with Andy Masterson and his action figures and sculpting. Talked to Gary Ambrosia about creating props and things like that, and Tony Stark, and our good friend Tony, talking about building little dioramas and things at home and lighting and little cool camera effects. But now we're going to get into a different kind of creative process, still tied to science fiction. And it's going to be a really nice discussion, you guys, to see how we can compare and contrast the creative processes that we go through as modelers and what writers might go through, what's going through our head. Because I know for me, I'm always thinking, putting myself in another state of mind when I'm doing this stuff. And I'm sure some of you are too, maybe putting yourselves on the ship or telling yourselves little stories, like this one. I'm creating a ship out of nothing. So I'm kind of creating a backstory for it. Anyway, it's going to be a really interesting discussion. So this coming Sunday at 9 p.m. Central, I'm going to put a post about it in case the time changes, but I really hope to see you all there. It's been a wonderful series so far, and I'm just looking forward to more as we go forward. Hopefully we get a lot more cool guests and some creative and interesting discussions going on as far as sci-fi is concerned. So when we talk sci-fi workshop, it's not just models, it's just anything with it. So hope to see you guys there, and enjoy this video, and we'll see you down the road. Take care. Hey everyone, quick aside here. I just wanted to show you guys what the piece looks like before it's sanded down. I don't think we showed that before. It looks like a holy mess, Look at this. It just looks awful. But the thing is, the sandpaper will knock this down. The thing is just the little bottle here that we do. It's just not. It comes out very fine, but it just kind of goes all over the place. And the only other thing to tell you about, when it hits the powder and the baking soda, it does release some heat. So when you do it, you'll see a little smoke, a little steam, and then if you feel that in the inside of the piece, it's hot. And the same is true for when you put this Instaset on the CA glue. It when it dries at the setting, it releases the heat energy. That's the setting, the chemistry going on there. So just be careful if you have any glue on your hands that you get it on and you get some baking soda on it or the Instaset, you have a chance of kind of getting a little bit of a burn there. So please be very, very careful. Anyway, I'm going to go and take this over to the sanding station, and now looking at this here, looks like I do need to square off this window here some. I think maybe some glue got in there. So we'll square that away and get that taken care of. But so far so good. Now we just got to do that. See you soon, folks. All right, everybody. So it has been about two and a half hours or so since the last section was recorded, and wanted to give you a little update here. So as you can see here, hopefully, the upper part of the saucer section is nice and smooth. There are no panel lines here. Let's aim the light a little bit better so you can see. Now you might see some here, but they are all smooth. The reason you see them is because the CA glue is transparent. So there are a couple things here that you can see that are white. I can tell you that they are smooth. I think that's just some baking soda that got trapped under there, but it really did come out very smooth. Now, just to let you know, so it was ugly, just like we had showed you with the other part of the engineering or secondary hull. This has been very smoothed out too. So with the orbital sander, it took an 80 grit disc with pretty high speed to get all of that sanded off. But with a little persistence and just patience, it did come off. And then I went from 80 then to 180 to 220, and then we're going to be ready to put some putty on here to smooth out and fill any little holes that might still be there, and then go ahead and prime it just like we've done with this part here. So yeah, so this is really nice. Now what I have learned through this process, now I still have to do the bottom part of the saucer. You can see all these red lines. These all gotta go. What I am going to do is I'm going to sand it down with 80 grit first to get rid of these phaser arrays and the lifeboats. The reason I'm doing that, folks, is because I do want it all smooth. And if we're going to put some lifeboats in here later, I can make those custom, cut them out of some thin styrene around the edges and put them down without too much of a problem. It would probably be just fine. That's if I decide to do those. The phaser arrays here, I'll have to figure something out. Probably just use some strips of styrene. They have rods and things like that. I can fashion those and bend them properly to fit the curvature of the saucer section. I might even relocate them. I don't know. We'll worry about that when the time comes. But the purpose of this is just to get the entire saucer section as smooth as we can. Now, we did leave the top here. I didn't touch that. There are some lifeboats up here and some cool textures and things like that. Leaving that's going to look pretty cool. But so far, you guys, it's really turning out great. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I did also smooth out the side here. I'm going to have to do some more of that with just some sanding, just get rid of these ridges here. I want that nice and smooth as well. And then we'll cut in some windows, drill those things in for the front of that. And then, obviously here, probably a couple windows here on the bridge on the B and C, maybe A, B, C, D deck. Who knows what was in there. But yeah, it's really looking sharp, everybody. So just let me see if I can put this together, because there's something about it. And maybe it's just the neck is nice and smooth, but when I put this thing together, it really started taking on a life of its own. It's already starting to look and feel like a different ship. So let's put this together here. It's probably not going to be aligned just right, but that's okay. There we go. So there we go. So it's really already looking different. I think it's because this is smooth. It's really looking like a different ship, almost like a cooler version of the Enterprise. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being excited and dorky. I don't know. But I'm planning to put some nice windows in here, just a few, not too many. And just a couple in here as well. We've got the nice big ones here. That's going to be nice. And then on the front, on the side here. So it's going to be a lot sleeker, a lot less busy, cool shape of the ship and everything. So it's really turning out to be a lot of fun. This baking soda and CA glue is really turning out to be great. Just if you do it, just be prepared to do a lot of sanding. And but it's not too bad. It's not unmanageable. You make progress and stuff. So anyway, I'm having a lot of fun. Hopefully, if you're considering building this, go ahead and order one of these and build this alongside and come up with your own designs, so your own ideas, and let me know what you're thinking. All right, everyone. So the bottom part of this saucer section has been sanded down. Got rid of this phaser arrays and the lifeboats. So that took about 5 minutes or so to get that taken down. So what we're going to do here, just demonstrate kind of the technique I've been doing. And it's sloppy. It sure is sloppy, but it works. So I'm just taking this little bottle here. I've got some baking soda in there, and I'm probably doing too much here, but it's all flat. So what we'll do is we'll just spin it around and lay all the glue down. Because it's flat, I don't need to worry too much about it falling off. So I laid down the baking soda, and I'm just rubbing it in here so it makes sure to get it in all of the little nooks and crannies and panel lines and all that stuff. And I'm just doing this outer ring here. All right, that's probably pretty good. Now, since this is flat, I can do a bigger area, and I can kind of wipe it down a little bit more roughly because I don't have gravity pulling the baking soda out of these lines. So there it is, and all I'm going to do here is get the CA glue. Now, the bottle here that I have, the needle did clog up, and unfortunately I had to pull that out, but it's still good. So I'm just gonna pour this down and just drip it slowly. All the way around. Now, if you have a brush or something that you don't mind kind of losing, you can use that. So what I'll do is I'll just grab like this old brush here, and we'll just paint it around. Likely you're going to ruin the brush, and you might be able to see some smoke coming up. That is the glue setting with the baking soda. So you can see here, this brush is already ruined, but at least it's going to let me spread this around a little bit, and I can avoid using too much. Just be careful not to touch this stuff. You don't want to let the brush or anything that you're using sit on this too long, because it will stick. It's kind of a it's kind of a hit and miss thing here, you guys. So you want to just make sure you cover it all. Now you're going to miss some spots. You're going to be able to look at this, and when you're when it's all dry and it's safe to touch, you're not going to glue your finger to the piece. Go ahead and go over and put the baking soda over any spots you missed. Okay, so that's enough for that. So I'm going to hit this with a couple shots of the Instaset here. And you can see, again, hopefully you can see some smoke coming up. That is the chemical reaction happening, and it is hot. And sometimes you can actually feel the heat in the plastic, so or in the styrene. So yeah, I can feel it down here. Anyway, so yeah, there are some spots here that I can tell that I missed. So I'm going to go ahead and just do these real quick. Now, for the sections when you miss them, you just want to do small sections at a time. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I probably should be going smaller sections anyway, and kind of controlling it and using less glue. But it's really late in the night right now. I'm in a hurry. I've made a lot of progress, and I kind of want to just get this done because I want to keep moving on. But that is something we all have to battle, right? As modelers, we want to keep moving, but we also don't want to rush to the point where we're losing quality. Okay, so I can see here there's a little bit, there's some panel lines there. I can kind of feel them. So I'm going to lay a little bit more down here. Again, there might be better techniques than what I'm doing. So if you have any ideas, please let me know. Not only for my sake, but for just the hobby itself. Again, the idea here is to remove panel lines. So you will get glue on you. That I can assure you. Alright, so yeah, and I can tell you it does get quite hot. you will definitely learn that. Okay, so this is done. You can see it's really quite ugly. It's nasty, but when we sand this down with the 80 grit paper, it will smooth out really nice, just like we did with here, and it's a nice smooth surface. So I will probably need to buy more glue. I don't have too much left. I have a little bit here. This is pretty thin. I could use this, but the bottle that I used so far has done almost all of the ship. I have this about here. This might actually be enough, but just to let you know, it is a bottle this size. Okay, so if you're going to do this, if you have a bottle of this size or larger, you probably will be okay. So that's it for here. I'm going to go ahead and finish this, do this area here, and then go ahead and sand it down again, just like we've been doing. And after that, everybody, that's pretty much all of the panel line removal we have to do. The only other parts to modify will be the warp nacelles. We've already got the secondary hull done as far as filling in the panel lines. Top section of the saucer section is done. Bottom of the saucer section is almost done. And then we're going to, as we talked about before, we're going to get rid of these little rib things and make something a little bit different there. And then after that, it will be a matter of creating the nacelle struts and figuring out a way to insert them in here and have them go back sweeping like we had talked about. So that's going to be probably an entire video on its own, or maybe most of one, while I figure out how to do that. So we're kind of going on the fly here, but so far so good, having fun. We'll see you in a minute. Okay, everyone, so all the putty's been applied, everything is sanded down, and we're just waiting for this to dry. So tomorrow morning, after all this has been set, I will go ahead and sand this down with really fine sandpaper, probably 1,000 or 1,200 grit, just to get all this putty down that I just smeared all into this to fill any holes or anything, panel lines that I might have missed, and it should just be just fine. So, all right, that is it for me for tonight, and I am signing out. Really, really excited. See you soon. Hey everyone, okay, a little bit of an update here. So the first round of putting the thin glue with the baking soda didn't turn out too well for the top of the saucer section. You can see here there are still a lot of grid lines present. They're not very deep, but they are still there, even though I did cover the entire thing. So I'm going to have to give it a second round. Now the bottom of the saucer section did turn out pretty good. There are just a couple of spots here I need to kind of touch over, especially like right here. So the when I was done, I sanded it all down, put the perfect plastic putty, and then sanded that. I thought everything was okay, but then when you put the filler primer on, you can see there. So it's just a kind of a good thing to point out that, even though if you feel something, it doesn't feel there's any gaps. Sometimes priming something will reveal some errors and some things you need to work on. So it will get there. I'm just going to do another round of the glue and baking soda. I did go ahead and get 2 more bottles of the super thin CA glue, which is here. I went through 1 bottle. So 1 bottle pretty much took care of the ship, but I would say 2 would be needed to finish this project. The sides of the secondary hull are really good. This looks nice. This is super smooth. This came out really well, as did the other one here. You can see some lines there, these grid lines, but they are not present. That's just seeing through the primer. So other coats of primer and paint will get rid of that. And so yeah, everything's looking good. The only other little update here is right here, and this is the one of the nacelles. I went ahead and took out the ribs as best I could, and then I was just layered glue in here with the baking soda, several layers upon layers, and I sanded it down. Took me quite a while, but I think I got it down. There might be a few other spots. Now I did cover it with a nice thick coat of perfect plastic putty last night, so I'm going to sand this down and take a look at it, and I will come right back and talk about this just to show you where I'm at, so I can let you know where things are. So I will be right back. I'm going to sand this down right quick and then come right back. Okay, I'm back. It's probably about 30 minutes since the last recording that I did, and it's pretty much done. It doesn't look like much here because of all the glue and the weird coloring, and some of the some of the plastic putty is in there that filled the gaps that further sanding didn't take off, so I know that it did fill gaps correctly. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and prime this. Now, something I did learn, so here is the other one. What I'm going to do for this one, you guys, is I think I'm going to cut some styrene pieces and just lay them in here to try to kind of fill this gap a little bit, and glue that, and then fill in those gaps with some of the glue technique. The filling this entire thing with CA probably was not the best choice. It took a lot of sanding and a lot of work to get it down. So I'm going to, on this one here, I'm just going to cut some individual pieces of styrene sheets that I have, custom cut them to the shape, and maybe get them to be a little bit higher, in the shape of these kind of ribby sections, and see how that works. It probably will work a little bit better, and I'll just glue them in layers. It might take a couple of days, but I think it would be a little less headache and come out a little bit nicer, or at least a little bit easier. So we'll try both. I think they'll both end up looking fine, but we'll go ahead and just try cutting some styrene, gluing that in with some CA so it sticks real quick, and then filling the gap. So we'll give that a try, and I will come back and we'll talk about which one's better. Okay, so this one turned out a little bit better, everybody. So, right here is just some styrene. It was some pretty flexible stuff, pretty thin. All I did was just lay down some CA glue and then laid these guys on top, and then covered it with a layer. Got it with the Instaset, and then just kept kind of filling it in. Took it over and gave it one sanding, and that seemed to be pretty good. And so now I'm just going to continue that process. I'm going to go over here and sand it again, and so on and so forth. So one thing I did learn here, so I got a kind of a flat surface, so laying these guys down was a pretty good idea. I was able to sand it all down and get that pretty flat. And once that was done, I went ahead and put another layer of glue on top and just kind of let it settle on its own to get more of an even surface. So I'm running my finger up and down here. It's a little smoother than before. So I'm going to keep doing that. You can see here there is a little bit of a dip right here. So I'm going to lay some here, and I'll just demonstrate that real quick. So I just got the CA glue. I'm not doing much of the baking soda on this one. I did a little bit on the insides of these little guys here. So I tilted it up, and there was a gap, so I put some baking soda in there, and then hit it with the Instaset too, and that helped fill it in. But pretty much it's just CA glue and the styrene here. So here we go. I'm gonna lay a little bit more at a time, a little bit more as we go. And this is the thicker stuff here, the thicker CA glue. This is medium viscosity. And the other one I was using was thin, which is what we'll use for the panel lines. But for this part, I kind of want it to be a little bit thicker. So here we go. I'm going to lay some more down so it's spread out a little bit. And you can kind of see, hopefully, that it's kind of collecting in the middle there and not so much on the sides. And that's because I think, like we saw that little gap there, or that little dip. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit more on the outside here, just so it gets a nice even, kind of let it find its own level a little, and it's going to be a nice smoother surface. So some of it's running down there. So we're going to go ahead and get it with the Instaset, and I'll lift it off of this mat. Now, when you do this, guys, make sure you have something that you don't mind getting a lot of glue and goop on. So let me see. I'm going to hit that a little bit with a little more. We did put quite a bit of glue. Let that dry. So there's some there on the side. I'm going to have to sand that down. But now I'm feeling this, and it's a lot smoother than before. So I think this is going to be a little bit easier to sand with this method here. So you can still see it, though. It still doesn't dry. It doesn't dry as flat as it goes down. Maybe now if I let it dry naturally, we wouldn't have that. The Instaset's probably causing some of that waviness because it's getting harder on certain areas than others instead of drying naturally. But I'm just a little bit impatient. So here we go. There's still a little bit of a dip there right here in the middle. So we'll go ahead and put some more. I'm just going to put a nice, good amount right there in the middle. That round didn't go so well. It's kind of hard because I'm bending over the camera here so you can see. But yeah, it's getting less. Yeah, if I had a little more patience, I could do this and let it dry naturally, you guys, but I'm not. Okay, so that looks a little better. So, okay, I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to go over there and give this some more sanding. Okay, a little bit of an aside here. Something I just kind of thought of, and it seems like it's going to work, so I figured I'll document it. Now, I've already done what I'm about to show you on this side here, and the challenge I'm having here is to get enough glue to cover this curve, because this part of the nacelle is kind of recessed, and you kind of have to put a little bit more here and then get the curve to be accurate. And hopefully I'm explaining this in a way that's understandable. So, you know, you just got to keep layering it and layering it. And the challenge I had over on this one was because of its curved, you know, you got gravity pulling the glue down. So I thought of a little thing, and I think it's going to work. So what I did, I haven't sanded it yet, but I think this will work. So I took a piece of tape and I put it over here on the middle. Now what that did, that gives this nice little trap here. So you can see there for some baking soda. So I did that, and I'm going to take the baking soda and just kind of fill that in there. Get a good amount. Then I've got the super thin glue, and we're just going to drop that in there and let that set. Now what that's going to do, that will hopefully ensure that we fill up all the little gaps that's missing on that curve, and then we can sand it down and, you know, with the sander, and get a nice contour to it. Okay, so I'm going to peel this off, and then there was a little bit here that did not get dried up, so we're going to apply a little more glue to the top just to make sure it gets all in there. Okay. Now, there we go. So I'm going to hit this a little bit with some more Insta-Set just to make sure it's all in there and drying up. So what we're left with, hopefully, is this nacelle that has kind of an overhang right here, as you can see, right there and right here. And I should be able to just sand that down really quick, and hopefully that will have filled the gap. So I think I figured out something there. So I'm going to go give it a sand, and I'll come right back and let you know how it show you how it turned out. All right, so we're about round 3, and this is pretty much done. You can see through here, see the styrene that I put in there. It's really smooth here, and the only thing is I did nick a couple of places here, so I'm going to go ahead and put some putty down and get that smoothed out. So in particular, there's like a little spot there that I nicked out. That wasn't glue, that was styrene that popped off, I think. There's a little bit up front here, so I'm just going to go over here, and my hands are already filthy with this dust and stuff, so I'm not even going to bother putting a glove on, although I do recommend that you should. So I'm going to put a little bit there, put a little bit here, and just a little bit everywhere around here. Put that cap back on. I'm just going to use my finger here and just kind of fill this in. In particular right here, I want it smooth because I did a lot of sanding there, especially at this curved part. Sorry about this thing going out of focus there. Here, we're going to fill this in. You can see right there is where that filled in. So might take a couple rounds of putty. I'm going to start thin. This stuff dries pretty quick, but I'm going to let this set overnight and get nice and dry. And then We'll come through tomorrow and sand it down with the 1200 grit. Let's just put a little bit on top there, just in case, just to fill in any micro holes that we can't see, because you know what? They always show up when you prime this stuff. Just go nice and thin layers. And what you can do is you can just apply this, like I said, this thin layer, sand it down, do another thin layer, sand it, and do it 2 or 3 times, and that way you can get a really nice coat. There we go. Okay, let's look at the other one here. And this one, I think I had already done with putty, but I do feel a couple little pit marks there, so why don't I just to be on the safe side. The putty isn't all that expensive. It's like $8 or so for the tube, and I'm not using that much here. I just want it nice and smooth. And I'll give this, like I said, a light sanding with the 1200 grit. And maybe even one more layer of putty after that. And then what we'll do is we'll use the filler primer, which will further take care of any missed spots. We'll give it a good sanding after the filler primer with some very high grit, probably 1200, maybe 15. And then we should be able to go ahead and continue painting it. So let's zoom out. But there we go, folks. There are the 2 nacelles. And if I can, let me go and grab, the original. Okay, I've grabbed an original one here. This is obviously put together, but you can see here how the difference is between this one. These are nice and smooth. We filled in everything, whereas these have these little rib cage things. We filled in this big doorway or U-shaped thing, as well as these 2 indents in there. And that will allow us to have a nice sleek design, very simple engines, simple warp nacelles, and the decals, I think, will go a little bit better. They'll stick nicer on there. But the other thing is here, there's these bumps here and here in the back. I did sand those down. So we'll go ahead and put our own nav lights. We'll have strobe lights in the back and nav lights up in the front. And it's looking good so far, everyone. I'm really happy with this so far. The biggest challenge is going to be building the struts or the supports for these and getting those able to fit in here somehow. But we'll cross that bridge and we will solve that problem. Anyway, take care, everybody. That's probably it for this video. Or if it's not, I'll come back and show this part. But if this is the last section, I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you down the road.